Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well. So the musical that I chose for my oral presentation is SpongeBob SquarePants the musical. I love the musical. I think it's severely underrated. Everyone bashes on the story of it. However, I think that some of the music is amazing, and for the what they were given with, I thought they made a pretty decent story and book out of it too. It's really I really enjoy the musical, and it's one that I cherish, so that's why I chose it. So the book was originally written by Kyle Jarrow. So it was his first time that any of the shows that he had written made it to Broadway. He's written a lot of shows before, but this was his first that made it to Broadway. He had two that made it to off Broadway. I couldn't find the names of those shows though, however. Unfortunately, as much as I tried to find it, I couldn't. But yeah, so he's a fairly new writer for shows. So the songs in the show weren't composed or written by one specific or two people. Each song had its own either artist or group working on the song. So it's really cool because you get a lot of different types of music in the show. So there's different genres, different styles. It's really cool and really interesting. So to name all of them, Jonathan Colton, he actually wrote the majority of the music. He has the most of the songs. David Bowie and Brian Eno did one. The Plain White T's, T.I., Panic at the Disco, Alex Ebert, Cyndi Lauper and Rob Hyman did one. Yolanda Adams, The Flaming Lips, Sarah Bareilles, Steven Tyler and Joe Perry of Aerosmith did one. Lady Antebellum, John Legend, and They Might Be Giants. There were also two songs that were originally from the show that were adapted to the stage musical, and it was actually the final two songs of the show, so it was really interesting. And those are Best Day Ever by Andy Paley and Tom Kenny. And then the curtain call song is, of course, the SpongeBob SquarePants theme song by Derek Dryman, Mark Harrison, Steven Hillenberg, the show's creator, and Blaze Smith. The director of the show is Tina Landau. It's actually cool because she's a member of the Steppenwolf Theater Company here in Chicago. I find it interesting. I've seen a few shows at Steppenwolf, so it was really cool to read that she's actually a director at Steppenwolf. So I thought that was really cool. She's directed numerous productions there and is still a member. A fun fact I thought was really interesting for the PLT specifically is that she directed a production of The Tempest at Steppenwolf. I thought that was really cool because, we were supposed to put on Return to the Forbidden Planet, which is loosely based on, well, not loosely, but it gets its source material from The Tempest and The Forbidden Planet, the original movie. So I thought that was cool. A little nod to what our season was supposed to end like. So she made her Broadway directorial debut in 2001 with the revival of Bells Are Ringing. In 2009, she returned to Broadway with the Steppenwolf production of Tracy Letts' Superior Donuts. So this would make her SpongeBob SquarePants was the third show that she directed that made it to Broadway. Before casting the show, they hosted workshops for the actors back in 2015 so they could find to see who could embody the characters from the show without actually being directly told, hey, this is a SpongeBob musical. They were like, hey, act like this, act like this. They wanted to see who could embody those characters without actually knowing it was a SpongeBob musical. The show originally had a 4-week run in Chicago at the Oriental Theater. The run was from June 7th, 2016 and July 10th, 2016, through July 10th, 2016. I remember walking downtown Chicago and seeing signs like SpongeBob the Musical back when it was the summer right after I graduated high school, and I was like, Jesus, they're making a SpongeBob musical. Let's see how that turns out. So it's really cool to see how far it came. And the show then traveled to Broadway and took its home at the Palace Theater. It held 29 previews before opening on December 4th, 2017. Fun fact, that's my birthday. Irrelevant, but December 4th is my birthday. After a total of 327 regular performances, the show closed on September 16th, 2018. Here's some excerpts of the opening night reviews. Isabella Beidenharn of Entertainment Weekly said, "Not everything works, and there's often too much going on stage at any given moment. On TV, the show's outlandish wackiness is smartly confined to 2 11-minute segments per episode, so it's something of a challenge to stay fully invested and interested in the world for 2.5 hours. But SpongeBob certainly deserves points for creativity. David Zinn's costumes look like the combination between Dr. Seuss and the Hunger Games capital, and his set seems composed solely of junkyard finds and foam swimming pool noodles. The actors, especially Slater and Skinner, move their bodies in quick flashes and exaggerate their expressions so they really do feel like cartoons come to life. And there are plenty of winks to the show and its spirit, like the 1 hour later meme and SpongeBob's 'I'm ready' catchphrase. Slater's impressions of SpongeBob's laugh, too, is uncannily accurate." Alexis Solaski of The Guardian gave the show a 3-star review and said, the raw bar of composers makes for a lack of musical cohesion. And with the exception of the purpose-built introductory song by the comic folk genius Jonathan Coulton, the ragtag score has the book writer Kyle Jarrow swimming full out to work the songs into the story. He does it, though often at the expense of the narrative drive and character development, elements that more conveniently book musical songs would supply. The Hollywood Reporter's David Rooney said, "There's a certain whiplash effect, to be sure, in jumping from Bowie Eno, gloom rock to bubblegum pop to country to gospel to more conventional show tunes. But there's also a generosity of spirit here that, together with the playful visual imagination and the extremely likable, racially diverse cast, proves hard to resist. The big challenge for Nickelodeon will be to lure the cartoon's traditional fan base, the majority of whom may not be frequent theater goers. Still, tourists want big production values, will get their money's worth with this one." The musical credits the actors portraying the 6 main characters from the TV show as the leads of the musical. However, the musical itself does primarily focus on 3 of them, being SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy. However, I will list all of them as the musical does credit them all as leads. The lead of SpongeBob SquarePants was portrayed by Ethan Slater. This was Ethan's Broadway debut. And he had only made it to off-Broadway once, and it was actually during their, right after their run in Chicago, he went in off-Broadway as Jerry Samuel in Baghdaddy, and came right back to SpongeBob SquarePants for Broadway. Patrick Star was played by Danny Skinner, and this was also his Broadway debut, and he does not have any off-Broadway or off-Broadway credits prior to that. Sandy Cheeks is played by Lily Cooper. You may know Lily Cooper as originating Martha Bessel in Spring Awakening. Back in, I believe it was 2006, Spring Awakening opened on Broadway with, Leah Michele, Jonathan Groff, John Gallagher Jr., all of them. It was that originated back then. She also played Lucy Brown in Three Penny Opera, which was off Broadway. She was an understudy for Elphaba in the 2014 production of Wicked that was on Broadway. She played Susan in Tick Tick Boom, which was an off-Broadway production, and Ray in Sundown Yellow Moon, which was also an off-Broadway production. Squidward Q Tentacles was played by Gavin Lee. If you haven't heard of Gavin Lee, he's really big theater actor. He's primarily over in West End productions and stuff like that. But you may know him because he originated the role of Bert and Mary Poppins, both West End and for Broadway. So he is probably the biggest hitter that the show had. Sheldon J. Plankton was played by Wesley Taylor, who replaced Nick Blaymore from the Chicago production. He originated Franz in Rock of Ages on Broadway, and he also originated Lucas Benke in The Addams Family on Broadway. Eugene Krabs was played by Brian Ray Norris, who replaced Carlos Lopez from the Chicago production. He has no prior credits in Off-Broadway, Broadway, or Off-Broadway, and this is his Broadway debut. So it was really cool that two of the quote-unquote leads of the show were, brand new to not just the Broadway scene, but Off-Broadway, Off-Broadway, all that, just being in New York, this was their first time. So it was really cool that, the show had a lot of fresh talent on top of veteran performers. And that will conclude part one of this because I'm running out of space on my phone.